Hello and welcome to Indie Incursion, an indie games podcast. This week, we are bringing you guys just a whole lot, like 3 awesome indie games news stories. I don't know why I got into that in such a weird way. I'm going to be honest.
It is a whole lot, though.
Yeah, and I totally forgot to, read. So I was like, normally I would say your weekly source for all the indie games news you need to know. This week, we're bringing you 3 awesome indie games news stories. But instead, what I did was nothing. I just kind of, went right off the cuff, and it got weird.
Yeah, that's what this podcast is all about. It's time to get weird.
Especially number 69, which is...
Hell yeah.
It's pretty nice.
Oh, man. I'm a little upset we didn't do what we talked about before, though, but I also didn't want to play any of those games. To give some context to this. So this is episode 69. We wanted to do... a rating of the best anime titty Steam games that are out there, because there's all those dumb hentai games, but I really didn't want all my friends seeing that I was playing those games, so we decided not to do it.
Yeah, I felt like it would be uncomfortable to reach out to these developers and be like, hey, I'm doing a sexy episode of my indie games podcast and I need your anime titty game for free because I don't want to pay for it. Not into that. That's cool.
Yeah.
But thanks to a lot of our listener questions, this is still going to be a nice and sexy episode,
Can't wait.
I'm excited for a lot of the innuendo, the 69. Nice.
Oh, yeah.
I was actually asked by Chase that every time we say 69, we have to say nice afterwards.
Nice. I like it.
Every time. So
how many times? It's not going to come up that many times, though.
I mean, in our questions, we have
I guess so. Yeah,
literally almost every question. I guess it's actually only 2 of them, but Sam's question has 69 in it. Nice. 6 times. So that's 96. So I don't think that one counts.
Yeah, that's true. Then you have to say it backwards. So scene.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into a lot of these, but before we do that, let's talk about the games we're playing. So Josh and I are pretty much playing a lot of the same games, with the exception of I have played a game called Metal Unit. It's in early access on Steam, and he is still playing some Plague Tale Innocence. So let's go into Kunai and MindSeize first. Kunai from TurtleBlaze and MindSeize from Kamina Dimensions. Both of these codes were provided by the developers, as is my code for the Metal Unit Early Access on Steam. So what do you think of Kunai so far?
Oh,
by the way, Josh is dying.
Yeah, I'm dying a little bit. Just a little bit.
Just a flu and a cold.
It's pretty awful. I'm just getting sick back to back of different sicknesses. And even before this cold, I had this weird throat infection thing where it hurt to swallow. So I'm literally just going through every sickness I know and have had in my past, just one back to back, as if it's like a boss rush of sicknesses for some reason.
Maybe after this you'll be superhuman though. You'll be like freaking Bruce Willis from Unbreakable. But maybe. The only thing that can harm you is bacteria. Everything else can't. You could be hit by a bus and you're totally fine, but
if someone sneezes on me, that's the end of it.
100% dead. You're gone. All your powers are sapped.
Yeah, no, it's pretty awful. I don't know. It's awful. But here I am. I'm still around for at least now. Maybe not by the end of this, but we'll see. Anyway, so going to the actual game itself. So Kunai is basically all about you as a tablet, essentially, that is, for some reason, being chased by some evil kind of corporation of some sort. You were basically broken out by this group called the Resistance. And keep in mind, I haven't finished this game. I'm only a couple of an hour or 2 hours in. But
it's pretty much the same for me as well, by the way.
Yeah, I think I ended up just getting to the same spot you were at because I have both of our save files since we're doing a joint account. So we've essentially beaten one boss and then one fake boss.
I've beaten 2 bosses actually.
You have? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Then
Yeah,
never mind.
there's the first boss is the one that tries to throw junk at you.
Yeah.
That one I've beaten. That's when you like first get the kunai that's in the first area, and then the second boss after you kind of get faked out on the airship is this really fucking annoying eyeball that requires you to do some platforming, but as you'll hear soon, one of my complaints is that the platforming is not that precise, and it's fucking annoying as shit. Especially in
Yeah.
something that requires you to be precise.
Yeah, so essentially this is a Metroidvania game where your main tools, at least at this point, are a katana for slashing enemies, and then these kunai daggers that you use to propel yourself, where you'll either hit the left or the right bumper if you're playing on a controller, and it will shoot out to the left or right side, and if it's a wall that the kunai can stick into, you'll stick into that area and propel yourself towards that wall and be able to grab onto things or swing across different areas. So it's a game where it makes sense that it needs to be, from a platformer's perspective, very snappy so that you can glide across. But I'm kind of having the same issue where I'm running into, and granted, I don't know if this is just me being very new to it and trying to like learn how to use it properly, but the way the kunai and the jumping back and forth throughout the levels and the platforming, the way the world is designed is a little bit clunky in my opinion.
Yeah, especially because you don't, like, for reference, this isn't like you throw the kunai straight up. It's actually kind of nice at times because you throw the kunai at diagonals. So if you throw your left kunai, you go diagonally left, right kunai, you go diagonally right. You can do them both at the same time and get an upgrade to actually kind of propel yourself into the air by doing so. Mm-hmm. But the most annoying part about it is that they're basically projectiles, and these projectiles are not that accurate, if I'm being honest. Not because, like, I will at times be bad with them, which I am, but it's also because I literally watched it. I threw the kunai, and it was supposed to go into an area where it could latch on, but it just bounced off. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, I've noticed it a little bit as well. It can sometimes be not as snappy as I would have liked, especially with the premise of this game of you being kind of like a ninja of wall jumping and going from side to side. But there are aspects of this game that I really do enjoy. I like the art style to it. The background of the worlds I don't enjoy as much. I think they're a little bit bland and can sometimes blend in too much. But the little like cutscenes in between things that are usually in like a 2D art style, kind of weird, like very
they remind me of Flash
anime.
animation.
Yeah. So they're like a very rough animation that happens like in between for cutscenes, and I really enjoy those because there's a lot of like the game doesn't take itself too seriously, which I think is the right tone for the game.
Where you play a sentient tablet?
Yeah, exactly. So like there is a silliness in a lot of the animation, a lot of the faces of the character, especially you. I love the fact that when you push down on the controller, you basically make this like weird kitty face for some reason. Like I don't know why. Yeah,
it's like ooh. If you've ever seen that. Yeah, there's a lot of different faces you'll make. So if you like slash your katana too much, he makes like this really angry looking face.
Yeah, so like there's a lot of charm and like character in this. But then you get to the actual world itself, which has been pretty plain. And the enemies are constantly the same over and over again, at least from the worlds that I've been in. And so my main concern, not even really the platforming aspect, I feel like it can be clunky at times, but it's not the worst. But one of my biggest concerns with it is the combat just really isn't that fun when you're traversing through the actual world like itself, because it's the same, like one enemy that is killed in one hit, another enemy that has a gun that you have to hit 3 times, these weird like owl things that are like bombs that will blow up and like chase you. And it's like a constant cycle of those same ones. And the way you have to kill things without ever getting hit is by constantly jumping over them and attacking with like a down slash. And it just becomes the same monotonous couple of steps every time until you get to those bosses, where I think that's kind of where I wish it shined a little bit more, just to get to those things, because the boss fight, at least from the first one, was pretty good. I was like, okay, I can see that, you know, they're trying to teach you how to use the kunai, how to get to different places, to time your jump attacks and things like that. But when it's just the same enemies over and over again, it doesn't really feel as interesting. So I wish there would have been either something to spruce it up, maybe a different variety of enemies or different upgrades to at least quicker to get to a point where there's more variety in the way you're attacking enemies.
Have you gotten the shuriken yet?
No, I haven't. Not yet.
So the shuriken is like, it's an electrified shuriken, so it actually allows you to stun enemies, which, I mean, doesn't make it a lot better, but with certain enemies that are really annoying and super mobile, you can actually throw it at them, it stuns them, and then you can attack them. But it kind of leads into my biggest issue with the combat, which is it's not about precision, and it doesn't feel like anything you do really has weight, because it's literally all you do is like slash with this katana. You actually, how you were talking about doing the jumping and doing kind of like a pogo, you don't have to do that. You can literally just slash and you'll basically kill everything, which is really annoying in a sense, because there are the ones that die in one hit. You run into them, you take damage, but otherwise you don't take damage. The ones who shoot at you, if you just slash continuously, it will knock all of their projectiles back to them, which ends up killing them. The kind of annoying owls that will dive bomb into you, if you hit them before they touch you, even though they explode, you still don't take any damage. And later on in this kind of like third area where you get the shuriken, kind of like this third little world, there's an enemy. There are actually a couple different enemy varieties that show up in there that don't before, but they kind of show up in the, I believe it's called like the artificial desert. It's like right before the third area.
Yeah.
But they show up a little bit there where there are like burrowing wasps that hone into your hone into where you are, and they try to attack you, and you have to maneuver out of their way, and they hit the ground, and then you can slash them. That's actually one that the shuriken did change a little bit, because you can't just relentlessly slash them. You actually had to move around a little bit, and you had to be more mobile, which the shuriken then made it to where you just had to slash them, because I would stun them and then slash the shit out of them. There's another enemy that has like a large weapon that will hit you, and it hits you really hard, and it's actually quite mobile as well. But if you just stand in front of it and slash it with your katana, even though it makes the animation of attacking you, you won't take damage.
Weird.
Like, you can literally just sit there, and the pushback from your katana puts you right outside the range of their attack, seemingly. And it's kind of annoying. I do agree with you that, like, I think the enemy variety, the way they actually look, the character designs are actually really interesting and cool.
Yeah.
Especially since I like robots a lot, and they mix in both the more human-esque robots and these more anthropomorphic ones like animals and like wasps, so insects and stuff like that. But then they're just so boring to fight. Like, it's every Metroidvania that comes out now, I feel like I'm going to compare to Hollow Knight, and its combat, which is also going to come up in MindSeize, just warning you. And Hollow Knight has such heft to it. It's so precise. And Kunai, I feel like there's almost no way I can lose. I can just kill everything if I just slash it enough with my katana. Or like I stun it. So it's kind of annoying. The biggest nuisance with Kunai is actually just the platforming. I don't have any like issue with anything else. The only reasons I've died in Kunai is because of the platforming, which is kind of annoying, especially since when you die, like when you platforming and you die, you fall down a hole instead of something like, once again, Hollow Knight, where you would end up just going to the last platform you were on and you could continue with just less health. Instead, in this one, you actually get revitalized at your save point, which means you have to make your way all the way back there and do it again, which kind of makes platforming more of a nuisance than it is fun, which kind of sucks because the kunai themselves are really, really cool, and what they lend to the game is really interesting. The only issues I have with them is that seemingly, like, their precision is just kind of off, where I swear to God, I have hit in places, and I've watched it, and it bounces off anyway, which, that's another issue I have with kunai, is actually the kind of signposting of the game isn't consistent, where you don't know what you can and can't actually stick the kunai into.
Yeah.
They have the metallic plating on certain things that's like, oh, okay, it'll bounce off that. But seemingly everything else you can until there's a certain form of rock that looks slightly different than the other rocks, and you can't. And I'm like, okay, what? What the fuck? What can I use these on? Yeah, which makes it kind of annoying versus something like signposting in any other game, which is like specific colors, tells you that you can or can't do this. Like, I just feel like it has really big issues with signposting. Yeah. But I do enjoy the atmosphere of kunai a lot. I think the world is really interesting and funny and quirky. Like the faces that your character will make, I think they're really cute and interesting. I love the enemy and your like partner designs. I like a lot of the colors that the world have. How a lot of it is really bland, but then other areas in the world can be like more bright and vibrant colors. I do like that a lot.
Yeah.
But did you ever have problems distinguishing between the foreground and the background?
To some degree, but not that big of a deal.
I only really had issues with it in like areas where the background had spikes. But like it were spikes overlaid with a platform that was very close to that, so I thought spikes were there, but they weren't.
Right, yeah.
And it kind of threw me off. Otherwise, I really like the look of kunai. I think that's its biggest asset is like the personality, and I think it's a very pretty game. But otherwise, it's kind of like, initially I thought it was so fun. And I messaged you and I was like, I think I love this game. And then the more I played of it, and I just started to have more and more issues. And it kind of like, it soured my opinion of it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it seems like for me, I have to just play more of it, because there were some things that I brought up that you kind of, said that there were like some resolutions to it of like the difference in variety of enemies, and I just need to get farther and having like the shuriken, so maybe it'll be a little bit better. But I'm kind of there with you. I had a lot of high expectations for this game going in, because it looked really, really cool from like a trailer perspective, but I don't know how much I'm enjoying it as of right now. I think I still need to sink more time into it before I give like a actual opinion of like yes or no.
Yeah, I feel pretty much the same way. I wanted to quickly go through a lot of my notes that I have here, because I take kind of meticulous notes on my thoughts on video games. So I love the character designs. I love the TV heads and robots. I think those are really cute and interesting. I like that it works with both a 360 and PS4 controller or the Xbox One controller, because there are games on Steam that have controller support that don't actually work with all of them. Like Minoria doesn't actually work with a DualShock for some reason, and I don't know why. It's kind of weird.
Strange. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, many other games do, but that one doesn't. The movement with the kunai themselves are fast, and they feel really good, but the times that they actually feel good are kind of few and far between. That's one of the things that I started to sour on. The katana feels clunky and encourages swinging wildly. I still feel the same about that. I fought many more enemies, and there's never been a time where I felt like I needed to do anything different with the katana. I have even kind of like forsaken upgrades for it, because it's just a boring weapon. Like there, you can charge it up. That's one of them, and you can, I believe, attune to it, which allows it to do more damage. But the fact that like as long as I swing as fast as possible, that I can basically like keep myself alive doesn't exactly like it doesn't exactly like reward precise gameplay.
Yeah, the charge can also kill you. I have it in my locked, like my version of the game, and I charged it, and the way it works is it like does this weird slow-mo animation where it basically whooshes you past the enemy. So it made me go right through an enemy and right into like a hole that was right ahead of me, and then I just fell and died, and I was like, oh, well, what the hell? Like, that's not what I wanted to do at all.
That's kind of cool, though. I have to check that out. That's kind of interesting. Have you gotten any of the hats yet? You beat the first boss, so you got the first hat, right?
Yeah, I got the first hat.
Yeah, I do like that there are hats because, honestly, I find the tablet itself kind of, like, unappealing aesthetically. I think it looks kind of ugly, but you gather these hats as kind of collectibles. I think those are really cute. Most of them seem like they're from like beating bosses, but I believe you can get them from chests in the environments as well. I like those a lot. I like the color contrast in the environments. A lot of it is like these really neutral colors, but then their outlines are actually really vibrant or like really kind of like darker colors that really show them off, with the exception of when they start to overlay the foreign background. It really starts to annoy me. There are some animations that are kind of stupid. So a way that they mimic you climbing on vines is you jump to where vines are and then you just float. It looks so stupid. I don't know. I don't know. That part's just a little weird. I do think it does encourage exploration, and it has like a decent map, which helps with that because the map actually shows you where platforms are, which I think is kind of nice, which is something that MindSeize has a big issue with because their map sucks fat dick. So maps are very important in Metroidvanias. I hate that touching enemies damages you. That's just a thing that I hate in general. You don't lose anything on death other than minor setbacks, which is, I mean, I do like it, but I also don't, because then it feels like death like has no consequence. You like,
I mean, time is important.
Yeah, that's very true. But even then, sometimes you don't have to do anything over again. So if you go and you
like
flick
the
a
unlocks.
switch, they're just unlocked.
I was happy about that because I had something like that happen to me, and I was like, oh, I don't want to redo all that over, and I just tried to go a different way and was like, oh, the doors are still unlocked. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. I had the same thing where I found the platforming so annoying on the airship at one point that I went and I clicked the switch and then I just killed myself so that I could go back because I didn't want to do it again. I didn't want to get all the way back. I think the cutscenes are weird and hilarious. Those are my favorite parts of the game so far. The robot scenes, the robot's sense of humor. So there was one robot in the airship that's like sleeping on the job.
Yeah.
And you walk up on it and it's just like, I mean, I'm supposed to kill you, but like if you just want to go, that'd be cool too. And they just want to go back to sleep. I think that was super funny. Dying during platforming segments can be a major setback. I guess that's the only time where dying actually seems like a setback. Hard to distinguish between the fore and background. Inconsistent signposting. Don't know which walls I can't kunai. And the last thing I have on here is the projectile tracking isn't great. So I think Kunai is a fun game, and I want to put more time into it, but I definitely am disappointed with what it ended up being.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
So let's move on to MindSeize. I am very sour on this game, so I'm gonna let you go first so you can kind of pump people up.
Okay, so MindSeize, this is actually a game we talked about on Kickstarter a while back. It's basically this man who he for some reason is in this strange deal where there's like, I guess he was like a secret, like a spy or some kind of secret agent, and
you mean you didn't find that cutscene super enlightening?
Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
So basically, this group of strange beings have his daughter at one point, and as the name declares, they seize her mind, meaning they just take her mind, and she is basically in a coma now. And they also stabbed him in the back, and because of that, he lost the nerves below, like anything below his waist, so he now cannot walk. So he's still trying to find his daughter's mind and trying to fight these beings, but he's using this weird like device where he hooks up into like his brain into some kind of device that allows him to become this strange like robot thing, and he's traveling to this planet to find those different beings and to find his daughter's mind. That's really all you get. It's very vague. I don't know too much other than that of the basic premise to it. But it's, once again, it's a Metroidvania where you're going in and you start off with just some basic attacks. You can, as you're killing things, gain currency to upgrade your character based on either this one random guy you meet who's like, I can fix up your robot thing, or just at your station. But then there's also random relics you find in the world that will give you upgrades that will allow you to do various things in the game, such as to be able to jump off of walls or to be able to slide under small areas. Very, very standard. You know, you go to one area, you find a power up, you're able to now go back to a different area that you would see in a Metroidvania. The main part of this is you basically have two attacks. You have one where it's your gun, which is unlimited ammo, and then you have kind of like a katana, a sword attack. You have special attacks that you can upgrade for making the gun more powerful, for making the katana do a slash attack that thrusts you forward. And you're basically just on this planet killing these weird enemies and aliens that inhabit it, and trying to find those beings. And that's about all I know as of this point. And that's really all the game gives you. I've actually, I've only played about 3 hours or so of it one night. And I did enjoy this gameplay a little bit more from a combat perspective in comparison to Kunai, just because there is a lot more variety in the way you kill things and the way you can actually go about fighting these enemies. But the platforming, much like Kunai, is very clunky at times. So there was an area that I just gave up an upgrade because I went in a way where you had to go back for like a platforming aspect, and you had to do it in a way where you just barely reached the edge to grab yourself and pull yourself up. And I tried it so many times and had to keep redoing it, and you have to walk so far to get back to the same couple of platforms. And finally I was just like, well, I'm not getting this upgrade, I'm just restarting. And that, like, it was super annoying. And there were parts to that game where in the actual game itself I was just like, God, I do not like how I have to traverse through this world. It gets a little bit easier when you start getting some of those upgrades, like being able to wall jump and being able to slide under things, but it still was quite annoying through just most of the traversal. So I did really enjoy it, though. I did have more fun, and I think it is a little bit more fleshed out than Kunai was. But I'm interested to see how you felt about it.
So, can you dash? I want to know that. Can you roll or do any sort of like quick movement?
Yeah, so eventually you get this one relic where you can dash under small areas, but it also allows you to just dash forward, which that's the main way once you get that, to avoid like enemy attacks, to avoid... There's this one enemy that has this weird like smog or smoke attack that is super
I've run into
annoying.
it.
Super annoying. When you get that dash makes you invincible for like a few seconds and gets you away from like everything. Like the game really changes from like a movement perspective once you get that power up.
Yeah, so I've been on a journey with MindSeize, okay? First, I was like, I'm so excited for this game. It looks awesome. We covered it in God Bless the Crowd. I reached out to the developer for a code. We finally got our code, and I was like, fuck. We got a lot of games to check out this weekend because we got Kunai, MindSeize, and a code for Metal Unit. So there was a lot to play. And I was like, you know what? MindSeize and Kunai are the ones that I really, really, really want to play, and they're fully out. And I felt like that was a good thing because Metal Unit is an early access, so it can change a lot, which I'm going to continue to play it because it's going to change. But I wanted to play these ones first. So I boot up Kunai. I play a little bit of it. I was like, all right, cool. This is nice. It's fast-paced. It's fun. I really enjoyed it. And then I tried to go play MindSeize, and it starts you off with a really nonsensical cutscene, okay? Where you are a detective, seemingly, who's trying to talk to an informant that is for some reason scared. Nobody knows why, because we don't know anything about this world, but he's scared about these people. I believe they're called the Ascended. When you're on the planet, they call them the Ascended, but I believe actually in that cutscene they call them something else. I don't know if they're the same because this cutscene makes no fucking sense, but he essentially finds out that his family is going to be attacked. So he goes home, finds out that this group, this like corporation seemingly, has taken his daughter. Not really taken, they just have her currently. He says he's basically going to fight them, and they steal her mind and paralyze him. Then he is recruited by this like resistance, seemingly, and they offer him what I'm assuming is the technology that allows him to transfer his mind into a robot, which then goes and like fights and shit like that. Like it's not him like in a suit. I'm fairly certain it's him in a robot because how they steal minds, I imagine this transfers your consciousness into a different body. But my biggest issue with this was I didn't know that cutscene was there because when I tried to go into it, my A button didn't do anything. I literally couldn't continue the scene. And I was like, maybe it's just not on the A button. So I click B, and I was like, nope, not there. I click Y, I click X. I was like, nope. I basically click every button, and none of them work until I get to start. And I click start, and I was like, it just pops me down on the planet. And I was like, wait, what? I feel like I missed something there. I feel like I missed a step. Yeah, I did. I missed the entire cutscene. And then this person tries to talk to me when I get on the planet through my comms. And my A button still doesn't work. So I was like, okay, that's a little weird. So I have to skip that as well. And before you ask it, before you think it, no, it is not my controller. I tried multiple controllers. None of them worked. And so the fact that this game has platforming, not having the A button, which is the button that's associated with jumping and continuing cutscenes, means that you literally just can't go anywhere. And I was like, you know what? To really prove that this isn't my controller, I'm going to switch the key binding. So I switched the key binding to jump and to proceed cutscenes from A to B. And whatever's on B, I switched it to A. I tried to use that. Nothing. Didn't work. I don't know why. So it is not my A button or my X button, my cross button, whatever you want to call it on a DualShock, which that is one of my favorite things about this. You can either play with a 360 Xbox One or DualShock 4. Wow. I really enjoy that functionality because I like the DualShock 4's form factor. I enjoy it a lot, and I think it's got a great D-pad, which the 360 controller does not. Xbox One is pretty good. Yeah. So I then have to... I don't know what to do, so I was like, you know what? I'll just uninstall and reinstall the game. Maybe that'll work. Turns out it did. So I was like, all right, cool. I was a little bit annoyed with the game, but I continued to play a little bit further. So I did have my jumping. I had to reset my key binding, so A was jump and to go in and everything. So I start going through stuff, and I get into some combat, and I realize that this game, the combat that they want it to be is like difficult but rewarding, but I didn't feel that way because they don't really give you the tools in the beginning to succeed in any meaningful way, because a lot of these enemies will attack you from the ground and from the air, but you don't have any way to avoid these attacks other than to jump. But you can't clear some of these enemies, and sometimes you can't clear their projectiles either. So you basically just have to hide behind, like, hope that a pillar is there, just anything to hide behind. That's why I asked if you could dash, because I thought that maybe I was just missing a button. Again, nope.
Gotta wait until you get that upgrade.
Yeah, apparently it takes a while. So the reason I have a big issue with that is this game is trying to mimic the combat of like Souls-like games, the difficulty but reward, but it's very precise. The nicest thing about a Souls-like game is it has a variety of ways to avoid attacks. If you're skilled, you can do so. Similar to Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight, it's a lot of jumping, and later on you get a dash, but all of the enemy's attacks you can easily avoid by jumping until you get that dash, and then the dash is then required for later enemies. It makes sense. It's standard progression. This game, no dash. It's fucking annoying. I do not like the combat in this game at all, especially because all of the animations are excessively slow. Yeah. So trying to hit like the wasp-like creatures out of the air, you hop up and try to hit them, but the animation is so slow that they hit me before I can hit them, and I'm like, what the fuck? For the wasps. Yeah, apparently you got to do everything, so it's super annoying. It's super fun when you're being attacked from the front but can't avoid rocks because you can't like really jump that high, and you're also being attacked from the air and have to use your gun, but that's not exactly that precise either. It's super fun. I really love it. But I was like, maybe I'm just a little bit too annoyed with this whole controller thing. I need to chill, and I'll come back and I'll play this when I'm a little bit calmer and everything. So I wait till the next day. I go to boot it up, and my fucking A button doesn't work again.
That's so weird. I did not have that problem at all.
I actually looked in the Steam reviews to see if this happened to anybody else, and it did.
Weird.
There's a bug where seemingly whatever is associated with that A button just does not work. Someone else had that issue, and I was like, I'm glad that I'm not the only one, but this is literally at times game-breaking because I can't actually jump. That's literally the only thing this game allows you to do to avoid attacks and to platform like standard games, and I can't do it. So I was like, oh my fucking god. So I reinstall it. My jump works again. I was like, okay, whatever. I play a little bit more and just realize that I don't like this game. I don't like really anything about it. I think the ambiguous story is really annoying. I get it that my daughter's like mind has been stolen, but by who? I don't know. Who are these fucking alien-ass enemies? I have no idea, let alone the fact that most of them are super ugly. Like, one of the Ascended shows up, and it's seemingly wanting it to be, like, a thing. But I'm like, as far as I know, at this point, the Ascended can be cool people. Like, I don't know who you are. Yeah. So, it's super annoying.
Maybe you're actually an asshole. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. I want to go down my notes a little bit just so you guys can see how annoyed I got.
Oh my gosh.
So I did just controller issues, straight up. That bothered the shit out of me. The opening is ambiguous and somewhat nonsensical. I stand by that. That opening makes zero fucking sense. Especially because at one point in time, people stop talking and it just shows pictures, but those pictures you've never seen before. What the fuck is it? Who are the Ascended? Nobody fucking knows. Like, nobody knows. No dash in the beginning. I knew that you'd eventually get one, and I felt like it was going to be an upgrade, but the fact that you really can't avoid enemy attacks is annoying, and I find that mostly annoying just because it doesn't give you a lot of variety to combat enemies. Like, you had the issue with Kunai, how there wasn't a whole lot of variety to, like, fight them. I feel like there's not at all variety in MindSeize. It wants you to fight these a very specific way, and if you don't fight them that way, you will die. You just will. There's no other choice. Combat and controllers, and the controls feel really clunky. That's mostly due to the really like heavy and really at times like excessive animations. The menus often lag. I'll try to pop into the menu and it won't pop up for like 2 or 3 seconds. And then it will, and I'll try to move like I'll click like LB or whatever to go to the tab over, and it'll take a second. and then it'll go. That's a little annoying. Area transition stall. So the exact same thing happens when I go into different areas. It will it'll show kind of like a roughly transparent version of the area, and it'll have my guy just standing there for a second, and then it'll be like, and I'll start to actually go. It's really annoying. The upswing takes way too long. It's excessive. Overlays during conversations, I actually really enjoy that. I like the character design in those overlays. I think they're very cool. The old man looks goofy as fuck. His sprite design does, and it kind of looks ugly. But then his overlay is this kind of nice drawing. I think that's really cool. That's one of the only positive things I have about this game. The art style and pixel art. I just like pixel art. I think the art style is kind of cool because I like the contrast between your mechanical kind of exosuit or your robot going up against these kind of alien grotesque looking creatures. I don't like them, but I like that contrast. Most animations take too long. I randomly lose the ability to jump and continue dialogue. That's super fun. The UI doesn't update after you enter new keybinds. So typically in a game where you change your keybinds, let's say if your slash was on X and your gun was on Y, when you switch them, it actually switches them in the UI. So you know, this one doesn't. It just stays there. So it's kind of just a picture instead of actually an interface. You can't look down, or you can look down with the right analog. I actually like that a lot because in Kunai you can't do that. And in a game where platforming is a big deal and you can always run into spikes, it's kind of annoying to not be able to look down.
Yeah.
And the map blows and only shows boxes and save points. I would also like to say that a lot of these there was a specific enemy that I'm sure you have run into, and you probably, since you have played a little bit more and you've gotten more of these relics and stuff, you've gotten these abilities, you might have been able to combat them. There's this big snail with a huge spiky shell.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. You hit him once and then he just hides.
Yeah, he hides, and then he won't come out, and you can't jump high enough to get over him.
Yeah, so once
you
get the dash, you can
go.
dash through it.
That's so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
He's literally just a roadblock. That is the dumbest enemy of all time. But yeah, I'm not a fan of MindSeize. I maybe if they fix my controller issues, I might actually enjoy it a little bit more, but other than that, I honestly hate this game. I'm just going to say it right now. I legitimately hate it.
Oof,
so
rough.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on MindSeize before you tell us, give us some updates on A Plague Tale?
No, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head.
All right, cool. How is the Plague Tale Innocence? How much more have you played?
I finished it.
Oh, shit. So how was it? Without spoilers, obviously.
Yeah, so I'll be brief. Personally, I really enjoyed this game. I think this would have been, if I had beaten this last year, somewhere in my top 5 for Indie Game of the Year.
Oh, shit. It got snubbed.
I know. I don't think this would have been, I don't think it's better than Disco Elysium, but I really enjoyed the way this game was progressively told. I think they did a great job at constantly playing with your emotions and building up the tension between the characters and the struggle of trust and commitment between just friends or family. It gets super weird with mystical powers halfway through, which I thought was an interesting turn for this whole plague thing. But the story of it was really impressive. I very much enjoyed it. I think that they also took a good balance when it came to the different play styles that the game offered, meaning they constantly sprinkled a variety of different elements, from stealth to actual combat to chase scenes where people are chasing you or you're running out of a burning building or something like that. Like they did a good job of making it so it's not constantly too repetitive with the different aspects that you're essentially playing. But I did think that as the story kept going near the end, there were a few moments where it felt like you were just doing something to do something while characters had a conversation. And it was one of those moments where I was like, well, I feel like you could have just done a cutscene for this. Like, I don't really need to be pushing this giant thing over from one area to the next, and it just takes a certain length of time for the characters to talk during that point. I also thought that in some areas, the actual like combat and stealth part to it could be a little bit frustrating. And the reason why is it didn't happen often, but there were a couple of times where the way your attacks work is you're basically like slinging a rock. So think of like David and Goliath, of like just throwing like chucking a rock at someone basically and hitting them in the head to kill them. You have a bunch of different like more expansive things, but that's essentially the gist of your attack. And so when you start swinging your slingshot or your sling, you have this auto target where it will show you, it turns into this yellow dot, and it's like, you're gonna hit them, like go for it kind of a thing. And there were some times where I would do it and it would miss, and like you only have a certain like finite amount of time to hit someone, otherwise if they catch you, it's basically instant death. So there were times where I'd be pissed off because it would like, it'd show that it should hit, it would miss, and then I would have to start over again. And sometimes that's fine, because the real concern and why this was a big deal is the checkpointing system in this game was not always as spot on as I think it could have been. So what I mean by that is they had a lot of areas where it was done correctly, where you would do a stealth part, and then when you're done with it, you'd be good. It would checkpoint, it would save it, you'd be able to fail, but you'd start over, you know, without having to do every single thing and trekking through the entire level. And I really enjoyed the way they did that for most of it. But then you would have a couple of areas where like closer to the end, this happened a couple of times, where there was a stealth area that I kept screwing up. And it's mostly on me because with stealth games, I usually like to try to take it slow at first. And then I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I just try to rush through it as fast as I can and find a way to do it. And it basically just takes more time because I screw up and I get caught. But it would go back, and it went back to this couple of checkpoint times where you'd have these like cutscenes that aren't cutscenes. You can't skip them, but it's just the characters standing in an area and talking to each other. And I'd have to do that, and it's like a waste of, you know, a couple of minutes every time you fail. And it's something that I think, you know, was just vaguely overlooked in comparison to where they put those checkpoints in a lot of other areas. But it really was frustrating when you have to keep redoing something, but like have to put in so much time and investment into that one specific area where you're just like, I could get it if you just put me back there and just let me retry it a couple of times, kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like my issue with Kunai's platforming.
Yeah, exactly.
If I was just closer, it would make it better. But since I have to redo so much, it's just annoying.
Yeah, so there were a couple of parts in this game where I was a little annoyed at that. But from an overall perspective, though, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved the world, like the exploration. There's a bit of crafting, a bit of upgrading different skills and abilities. There's a good amount of stealth and different mechanics in there. There's a variety of different characters that you play with that basically join your team and make an impact on how you can get your way through different areas that made it unique. I really enjoyed it, and the story was great. I love the way they ended it. They kept it very closed but open at the same time. I definitely recommend this game.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to check it out. I know it's on Game Pass, so.
Yeah, it's on Xbox Game Pass. So I played it, you know, because I just pay $5 a month. But I would still even recommend this game for those who have heard it and want to pick it up. I think it's worth the full price, which is like a $40 game. Even though it is, you know, you think of indie games and $40 seems a little bit high, but this is a very Even though it's an independently developed game, it is a very high quality game. It's not something that you would see from like a AAA studio, but there is a lot of detail and quality in the way the game has been produced, which is very impressive for only, I think it's a 100-person team.
Awesome. I'm going to have to check it out. That the team who developed it is called Asobo Studios. The last game that I played is by Jellysnow Studio. It's called Metal Unit. It's an early access on Steam. I already said that, but I felt like I should go back over it. Metal Unit is a 2D action platformer with roguelike elements, which I will say what it chooses to actually implement the roguelike elements in are super annoying. Not a fan. But just some of the things that I really enjoy about it. I love the actual metal unit designs, which the metal units are kind of your mecha. They are the, let's say I think in the Gundam universe, they're called mobile units.
Right.
But it's very similar to that. So it's the mech suit that they wear. The one that your character initially has, I don't know if it changes anywhere down the line, but immediately it's something akin to like Bumblebee, and it looks very cool, like Bumblebee the Transformer, but with more actual bee-like tendencies. So it has these kind of like larger wings to it, which Bumblebee obviously didn't. It just had like doors, but it's very cool and very interesting. I like it a lot. It's both very masculine and feminine at the same time. Like it looks very imposing and it looks really strong, but then has kind of more feminine features. It's very cool. It's like kind of cutesy, but really like ominous at the same time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I like it a lot. I think the pixel art is very beautiful for the most part. I think some of the enemy designs are kind of stupid because they're trying to be like kind of cute, but in the end it just looks dumb. Yeah. Like there are these little enemies that are kind of like basically baby Digimon, how Digimon always start out as these kind of like just
the
blobs.
Poof balls.
Yeah, they're just like poof balls. They're blobs. They're whatever. It's kind of like that, but with a sword attached to its head like a dumbass puffy unicorn. And it just looks really stupid.
Yeah,
and they have the ooh face the whole time.
I'm surprised you don't like that. I feel like that's something that you would be into.
It just looks so stupid. I hate it so much. And so many of the enemies look that way. It's kind of annoying. I like the weeby aesthetics to the game. So it has, just like Minoria or like Momodora, it has a lot of like these weeby tendencies where it's kind of like these busty anime girls. And it's kind of hilarious. So when you go into the startup screen, you see your character who is just like this busty anime girl in a tight like suit. It's kind of weird, but also kind of interesting at the same time. And like all of the characters are that way, at least like the female ones, and then the male ones are these kind of like emo-esque boys. So it's very anime. And it's pretty awesome, especially coming from somebody who really enjoys anime and the character designs in it. The screen gets super crowded at times, though. So they have the standard like UI elements, which are like kind of it shows you what your abilities currently are at that time because you can switch them out. So it's like, okay, this is the sword you have, this is the gun you have, this is the like kind of the projectile, like the grenade or whatever kind of ability, and then this is like your super ability. It's got that, but then it also has like tips and tutorials and like very obnoxious over the head like title screens of every area, and the areas are not that long, so it's not like in Hollow Knight where you go from like the entirety of let's say like the green path, it tells you that you're in the green path like once, and that's it for the most part, unless you go into a really notable area, you are in the green path. In this, literally every transition, and I would say that the stages themselves are just as long as Hollow Knight's are, so basically between one transition to another, from one fade to black to another, it gives me another title screen. And I'm like, I don't fucking care that this thing I'm going to spend 5 seconds in is called like the fucking Phantom Laboratory. It doesn't matter at all. I imagine once the game is done, that'll be a little bit less egregious, but it's super annoying, especially because right when you enter, enemies can attack you and I can't fucking see them because there's so much on my fucking screen.
The true struggle.
I actually wrote down here that I like the cute and varied enemy designs. I have since soured. They're annoying. I do like that you could use both the DualShock and 360 controller once again. I think that's awesome. I love the cute anime girls. Just wanted to reiterate that, I guess. Very little health potions and no save points. So this is where the roguelike elements come in, and it's very annoying. So instead of, let's say there's like, in a larger level, there are, let's say, like 10 stages. If I get like 5 stages done and then die, I go all the way back to the beginning. So you kind of expect that from like a roguelike game. So like in Dead Cells, you try to get as far as you can, you die, you restart, whatever, you find more stuff. But I feel like this game's combat is not tight enough, and its approach to storytelling and everything is more akin to like a Metroidvania than it is to something like Dead Cells, to where it doesn't seem like this game does not seem to be geared toward playing in the short kind of like fast sessions where you can kind of come in and come out. You have to kind of like pay attention, and your like equipment isn't varied. Once you get it, you get it. Like you pick it up and you get it. It's not like you die and lose it all. So instead of doing what I would rather have, which is you getting new equipment, but you starting off at like a save point, or you have to make your way back to your equipment, whatever. Instead, it makes you restart everything, and it's so annoying.
Ooh, yeah,
I fucking hate it, especially because like I finished once you get to the end of a level, you don't actually have to do anything again. Just thought I'd say that. So like I finished the first level, got all the way to the boss of the second level, but there are very sparse health potions just randomly scattered throughout this world. So if you get damaged, you're pretty much fucked. Like you're gonna die for the most part, unless you just cheese it by using like an assault rifle like I did, which hits enemies and keeps them from hitting you for the most part. So there are some things in combat, and what I believe is just kind of game design that I think that they should work out a little bit more and troubleshoot a little bit before the game's full release. A nice little bit is that I died in a boss battle and had to restart the entire level, and then I put in parentheses, big oof.
Big oof.
Just thought I'd say that. The combat is somewhat clunky at times. Like when you swing the sword, you're just kind of swinging it wildly. It does feel like it has heft to it, but I hate that it knocks you back a little bit every time you swing it. I find that somewhat annoying, especially because even if you miss, it does it. It's not like the force of hitting an enemy. It's just the fact of swinging the sword. It's kind of annoying. The sound design I like a lot. So if you go into places where it's raining, you can hear the rain, and it sounds just like rain. It's very, very nice. And like I got a plasma sword, and it sounds just like a lightsaber. And every time I swing, it has a slightly different sound effect. Technically there are only like 4 because you could do like a 4 combo, but it does, each strike does have a different sound effect, which I like, because that's something that like a developer could cut a corner and be a little bit lazy with, maybe get away with it if the game was, I don't know, like Dead Cells basically. The animations are great. I do actually like a lot of the animations of this, especially because like when you're shooting guns, they actually do drop bullet cartridges, and I think that's really interesting. And I put the obnoxious title screens in every stage. I find that super annoying. So I like Metal Unit a lot, and I'm excited to play more as it like kind of goes through early access. I think before I play more, I'm going to let it get a few more updates under its belt. But I am excited to go back. I've only played a couple hours of it. Like I said, I beat the first boss, and then I got to the second, died, and had to restart. And this was after trying to play MindSeize for a little bit, so I was already pissed off. But yeah, I actually do really enjoy Metal Unit a lot. If you like mechs, I would absolutely check it out. The mech designs in it are very cool and really, really interesting. I don't know if there's like a form of custom, like any way to customize or anything like that, but I would, if the developers are listening to this, I would recommend it, because that would be very, very cool, especially in ways that you could like customize them to fight differently. But I do enjoy the game. I think it's good. It's I would say it was kind of my standout experience between the three, because the things I disliked about it were far less annoying than constantly failing like platforming puzzles and just hating a game. So, yeah, I do want to reiterate, though, Kunai, MindSeize, and Metal Unit, we all got codes for them, so take anything we say with a grain of salt. But speaking of the grain of salt, because I think there's grains of salt in Australia, I don't know, we're about an hour into this, and I think we should get into the news. Our first news story is over on GameSpot. It's written by Edmund Tran, and it is Fallout 2 and Planescape Torment veteran joins Australian post-apocalyptic RPG Broken Roads. The studio behind Broken Roads, an upcoming isometric role-playing game set in a ravaged future Australia, today announced that the longtime tabletop and computer RPG designer Colin McComb will be joining the project as its creative lead. McComb was formerly a part of Black Isle Studios, working on Fallout 2, Planescape Torment, and more recently, a writer on Wasteland 2, Wasteland 3, and the creative lead for Torment Tides of Numenera. Broken Road models itself on classic RPGs like the ones McComb is known for, and leans heavily on using Australian settings, iconography, and language. It has an emphasis on exploration, dialogue trees, and turn-based party combat, but its most distinguishing feature is its morality system, which distinguishes actions based on 4 unique philosophical categories, which are utilitarian, existentialist, nihilist, and Machiavellian. An early demo of the game was one of the best parts. Who played at PAX Australia, I believe, which was not... That's not me saying that. That's the writer, of course. In speaking to GameSpot about the appointment, game director Craig Ritchie said that the studio Drop Dead Bites, or Drop Bear Bites, not Drop Dead, which is also a weird name, by the way.
Very different.
Very different indeed. Drop Bear Bites had been looking for an experienced designer to help bolster their newly formed team. And this is a quote. The high concept work in Tides of Numenera and depths to which certain themes were explored really stood out to me, and Colin felt like a good talent to try and get to the team. I contacted Colin and we got to talking simply by reaching out over Twitter. It felt like a long shot, but I sent him the link to our reveal trailer. We started discussing the game in general and the possibility of him being involved, Richie said. McComb said that he and Richie fell almost instantly into discussing our philosophical influences, and it spiraled from there. Next thing you know, I'm signing an NDA and helping him amend his company's drug and alcohol policy, which I don't know how a creative lead has anything to do with that, but okay.
I mean, he has some strict demands about how he, gets those creative juices flowing.
Yeah, he comes in and he's like, you can't drug test me because promise me so much cocaine. I've got that booger sugar in spades, dude.
I mean, hey, if that's what gets those creative juices flowing, then, sometimes you gotta snort a couple of lines.
When asked about his thoughts about Broken Road's unique take on RPG morality systems, McComb said, "It's always going to be difficult to capture the depth and breadth of human thought, but what I've seen of the early design Broken Roads is going to have a thoughtful and reactive system that will allow players to chart a mental journey that gives them the freedom to explore new avenues of thought without constraining them to a specific path or pushing them..." Sorry to burp.
Oh, I was like, what is happening?
Or punishing them for their choices. I look forward to long arguments about the nature of reality, perception, and the common good, and then tying all of those things to fast-paced yet thoughtful gameplay. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that turn-based combat is fast-paced, but okay. Interesting. I wouldn't say that CRPGs in general are known for their fast-paced combat, but maybe This Broken Roads will be that one. McComb and Ritchie also spoke about the recent resurgence of isometric CRPGs, which are paving the way for projects like Broken Roads to exist. And this is a quote: "Between 2019's successes and the games coming out in the next few years, it feels like a golden age for CRPGs. I don't know if I can remember a time when we've had such an embarrassment of riches all at once. It's exciting and gratifying to see," said McComb. Pillars of Eternity and Shadowrun Returns. Jesus. Really open things up against both for CRPG designers and for the fans, Ritchie added. "Just look at what In Exile, Larian, and Owlcat Games are up to at the moment. CRPGs may be niche, but they're strong. It's an interesting full circle having titles like Fallout 2 and, of course, Planescape Torment being such big influences on Broken Roads, and now having Colin on the team." And this part of the article is my absolute favorite, because I don't know why this writer buried this lead so hard. Really, if there is something to talk about, it's this. And it is: Broken Roads is currently slated for a 2021 release, of course, naturally. But here's the kicker. The team at Drop Bear Bites also recently hired the narrative designer Alexander Swords as their lead writer. Swords' recent projects include work on Ubisoft's game based on James Cameron's Avatar.
All right.
I just love that is what they called out, was this game based on James Cameron's Avatar. I feel like Avatar has a bad enough reputation that you don't exactly want to be like, yeah, dude, he worked on an Avatar video game.
I don't know. I guess that's all he's got going for him.
I know, that's the best thing he did in his career, was work on that game.
Well, hopefully this will be now he'll be the guy known as the narrative for Broken Roads once this comes out. Dude, I'm not gonna lie, Broken Roads, this is definitely a highly anticipated game for me. This is right up my alley.
Yeah, you're a fan of CRPGs. I had briefly made fun of you when we had first started this because you were playing this really old CRPG.
Yeah, I love them. I have such a weird nostalgic factor. I just love that old style of game, and I really enjoy, and it's very close to home. Probably why I liked Disco Elysium so much is a lot of these CRPGs. One of my favorite things about them is there's so much of a tie into the actual narrative, the story of it, because historically CRPGs were mostly text-based. That's really where you had to shine, because games from a graphic and visually intensive standpoint couldn't be anything that immaculate. So a lot of this, especially the morality tree, is really cool and unique. I think it's great that they got the person behind Fallout 2 for this as well, because Fallout 2 is definitely seen as one of the great games. It really upsets me that I just cannot play it because it is way too clunky for me, and just
I was about to say, why can't you play it? It's on Steam.
It is riddled with old just. They need to remaster that. They need to make it so it is not as awful from a gaming perspective, because video games, the design that they had for games back in the day with these type of games is just really terrible from a accessibility perspective and just quality of life things. But there's so much accolades for Fallout 2 and games of that nature. So I'm really excited to see that he's going to be a part of this project, because that will most likely make sure that, this game goes in the right direction.
So I do have to ask a question, which might sound stupid depending on who you are. Are there naturally camels in Australia?
I don't know. I'm not from Australia, but
because
good old
this
Mr.
game
Google
is based in Australia, and in some of their materials, they have camels.
Camels aren't native to Australia. And what's interesting is when I typed, "Are there camels?" the first thing that Google wanted to tell me was, "Are you looking for in Australia?"
Then what the fuck is up with these camels?
Well, it says they're not native, but they were brought over by British settlers from India, Afghanistan, and the Middle East.
Oh.
Estimates of numbers of camels vary, but there are thought to be hundreds of thousands of them across central parts of the country.
Okay, that answers my question, because I'm like, I have never heard of a camel in Australia. But I guess fucking koalas and kangaroos are just getting way too much of the spotlight, and the camels are being shaded a little bit too much, you know?
It's a true travesty.
Yeah, we need to know about these camels, because at the moment, all I know of camels is in like the Sahara Desert, so... If anything
Broken
needs to be
Roads.
known about this game, it's that there are camels in it, and this game looks really cool.
All right, that sounds good for me.
Speaking of camels, or at least animals in general, our next news story is over on Twinfinite. It is written by Grayson Morales, and it is ex-Sony developer announces Hokko Life, which is Hokko Life, an Animal Crossing-like sim game for PC. I love that they're making a lot of these, like, I don't want to say knockoff Nintendo franchises, but I imagine people will. Just, like, kind of like taking something that's typically a Nintendo franchise and its gameplay and then making it for PC, like Temtem, and how that's doing really well. So this one's like Animal Crossing on PC?
Yeah, it's just the strategy. It's what's
I'm not throwing any shade, dude. This is dope. I don't like Animal Crossing, so I'm not going to play this shit at all, but that's cool. The actual article says Robert Tat, I'm assuming that's how you're supposed to say his name, of Wonderscope AB has announced a new life sim game that will be coming to Steam sometime in 2020. Hokko Life is an Animal Crossing / Harvest Moon-like title that will allow players to make friends, craft items, go fishing, catch bugs, tend to fruits and vegetables, and much, much more. The solo developer has worked with Sony and Whitehead for the past 10 years. I gotta be honest, when I first actually read this, I thought that said Lionhead, but I guess it says Whitehead. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
For the past 10 years, and in a quote from the press release, mentions that he wanted to make a calming game that didn't involve shooting or killing. This is from the press release itself. My name's Robert Tatnell, which his name is Tatnell, not Tat. Interesting. I'm thrown off now. I've been lucky enough to work at a bunch of great studios, such as Sony and... No, but it's Lionhead.
I don't know where Whitehead comes from, yeah.
What the shit? Grayson, what are you doing? Got his name wrong and this lion head thing.
I don't know. There's someone out there, Whitehead. I don't know. Maybe he worked for Whitehead and Lionhead. Who knows? He's been doing it all.
Nobody can know. But after over 10 years making projects involving combat and killing, I decided to, in quotes, go solo and start building colorful, relaxing games instead. Hokko Life is a creativity-filled community sim game that invites players to escape the hustle and bustle and relax in their new home of Hokko. Build the town of your dreams with Hokko Life's creativity tools, which allow you to customize and design furniture, clothing, and much more. The creative juice is not flowing. Why not relax a while and get away for hours? Yeah, you could fish, you can hunt, you could do all sorts of stuff. I watched the trailer for this, and it actually looks kind of interesting. Once again,
Yeah.
definitely not gonna play it because I don't really like games like this. And also, whoever did this gameplay in this trailer put a couch in front of, or like a love seat in front of a bookcase? What's that all about, dude? Are you versed in interior design? Because that's bullshit. How are you going to get to your books?
That's his house, all right? He gets to decide, and or she, how to live their life, all right?
That's a good point. If you don't want to get to your books, it's not my business, dude.
It's true.
Yeah,
Maybe.
you just look at the books, I guess.
Maybe they hate books. They want to hide them.
Yeah, they're so ashamed of their books that they put a chair in front of them.
See?
Like somebody who like doesn't finish their food, so they cover it up with a napkin loosely.
Exactly.
They're like, just don't look at it.
Finished any of those books. And they're like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm just going to sit right here.
The thing that really stands out to me is actually like what would be called these creativity tools, how you can design this kind of town. You could choose where the buildings go. I don't know if you can really choose what they look like, but when it comes to furniture, you actually can. You can choose like how cushions go, the pattern designs. You can also change your clothes and how those work. You can kind of do like a freehand paint on your clothes. Like there's a lot of interesting bits of creativity in this game that I haven't seen from Animal Crossing, but that's also coming from somebody who's pretty ignorant about the series.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is I haven't played an Animal Crossing since the first one. So like I don't know how in depth they get nowadays. I'm pretty sure not as much as this is going though. Like the fact that you could move the pillows and put them on the different couches and like change up the patterns and everything, like it seems like it's going a step above and beyond customization wise that is available from something like Animal Crossing. But I'm sure, and even like the good thing about PC gaming in general is if they do this in a way where they allow the Steam Workshop, like you'll have people who will mod anything and create pretty expansive things that you can build into this. Like that's one of the definite perks of like having it on PC is you could just put that base value of items and then just open it to the community and be like, hey, you know, if you want to build your own new assets and things, go ahead, and we're going to set up a tool for you so that you can make more of these objects and different things. Granted, I don't know if they're going to do that or if that'll be a reality, but this is something that you could potentially expect considering a game of this caliber where their main thing is all about customization.
Did you ever, I guess you definitely haven't because you said you only played like the first Animal Crossing game, but have you ever seen Animal Crossing Happy Home Design on the 3DS?
No, I haven't.
It's a game entirely based on just designing houses, and you, like, it's kind of like this interesting gacha system where I don't know if you had to, but you could purchase cards from GameStops that would give you new pieces of furniture to fill your house. I'm not sure if there was like a whole lot of customize. Like I don't know if you could customize a lot, but I would assume in a game that is literally just about house customization, that's probably where the deepest, like that's probably where it got its deepest. So if it doesn't exist in there, I doubt that it has like kind of the depth of creativity that Hokko Life offers, but this game does look really interesting. It looks really relaxing. I like I actually like the, what am I thinking of? I like the music. I think it's like pretty relaxing, but other than that, it's just not, I'm never going to like this kind of game. I've never been into them, but kudos to everyone who is. How close do you think this is going to launch to Animal Crossing?
That's a good question. I mean, sometime in 2020 is pretty vague, so I would assume it's later into the year.
I think it'll launch a couple months after, similar to how Temtem's like early access launched a couple months after Pokemon's release.
Yeah, I don't think they would be crazy enough to try and compete head to head with Animal Crossing, but I think sometime in 2020 makes it sound vague, where this could even be something that ends up getting pushed back to 2021.
Yeah, since they're not giving like a strict date. The reason that I think it's just going to be a couple months after is because people will be like, PC gamers who don't have a Switch will be hearing about, like on gaming podcasts and in the games industry as a whole, they'll be hearing about how amazing Animal Crossing New Horizons is, or Horizon. I don't know if that's 100% the title. I might be spacing on it, but they'll be hearing how amazing that is for like months, and then possibly this game comes out, and I think those people will buy it. So yeah, I think it might be a smart decision to actually release it in 2020, because there will be people who really want it because they've been hearing people talking about Animal Crossing but can't play it because they don't have a Switch, and now they've got this. Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens with this one. Speaking of seeing what happened with something, our last news story is actually a quick one, and it's an update from last week. It's over on Nintendo Life. It's written by Ryan Craddock, and it is To the Moon returns to Switch eShop after mysterious disappearance. So we don't really need to get too deep into this one. It's kind of like I said, really quick. To the Moon was taken off of the Switch eShops in Europe last week or the week before with no warning, no real like explanation why. But the developers have now gotten back to Nintendo Life and provided a statement saying the reason of the issue. The reason of the issue that To the Moon was taken down from Nintendo EU eShop was that the rating for the EU region... What? I feel like for the EU region were changed. Interesting. Okay. So it was changed after release. Yeah. Nintendo informed us and we submitted a new patch for the rating changes during the holiday. Are there multiple different
I don't know why. I don't know why there's multiple ratings for this game. What is it? Is it? I don't know.
So weird. What did they do that made this rating change? I don't get it.
I don't even know. Yeah.
But To the Moon is back on the EU eShop now, so you guys can now go purchase it, enjoy it. I've heard it's amazing. Did you ever play To the Moon?
No, I've never played it, but I've heard the same thing, that it's really good. It's just one of those things that I've always kind of slept on, though.
Yeah, it's an adventure game. I've heard it's fantastic. Never really had the chance to try it out. But speaking of quick news stories and such, it's about time we hop into News Cram, Big Josh boy.
Cram time.
Wow, that was horrific.
I know. It's just like how I feel.
So terrible.
Thank you. Let's get crammed, boys and girls. It's the 69 episode.
News Cram is our weekly wrap-up segment where we, the hosts of Indie Incursion and Indie Games Podcast, cram you full of all sorts of indie games news. This week, we don't have any quick indie games news stories for you or any new deals or quick steals, but we do have a whole bunch of new stuff, so get prepared.
Me. I'm ready.
I don't think you could handle it at this point. I think you
I could handle any type of things you're going to cram me with, if you know what I mean.
Our first 3 items in new stuff come by way of Nintendo Life, where I just realized that I put 3, and then I think I deleted 1. So it's just 2. Yeah, our first 2 items come by way of Nintendo Life, where it's reported that action-adventure game Heaven Dust by Indie Nova is headed to the Nintendo Switch on February 27th, and that, surprisingly, WayForward's 2D Genie will soon be immortalized in plastic with Funko's new pop of the titular character, Shantae. Sadly, all we know is that she is coming soon. Are you going to buy that one? You're a big Shantae fan.
Big Shantae fan. Not a big collectibles or physical goods fan, though. So, no, definitely not.
I used to collect Funko Pops, and then...
That sounds excessive.
Yeah, I used to buy a lot of them, and I was a big fan of them. And I actually did, Funko Pop unboxings on YouTube for a while.
Oh, shit.
That's the only time I've really seen traction on YouTube, which was kind of depressing because one day, and I remember this specifically, one day I was driving home from work at GameStop and something clicked and I was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And I just sold all my Funko Pops and I was done. I honestly think I was depressed at the time.
I'm so proud of you.
I don't even think it's growing up. I think I was depressed. And... Instead,
do you regret it now? Are you
no.
I could have had such a collection?
The only thing I regret is that I sold several of them on eBay and actually made a profit on them, but then got sick of it and just sold them in bulk to a local retailer.
What a fool.
I know I'm a fool. I fell for one of those classic blunders, and I fucking I had later looked up some of the pops that I sold to him, and they are worth a lot of money.
Oh, you done goofed. That's a big oof right there.
Yeah, that's a big oof, if ever there was a big oof. Because one of the pops I had was worth over $400.
Wow. Now that's quite a pop.
Yeah, and I sold it for $20 because I'm a fucking idiot.
You a big old dummy. No, I will not be getting Shantae. Let's continue.
You're being a bitch, dude.
Nah.
Now over to Polygon, where it's reported that roguelike RPG Below by developers Capybara Games is headed to the PlayStation 4 sometime this spring. This version will, whatever I just fucking said. This version will release with a new gameplay mode called Explore, which will shave down some of its difficulty. Now over on Twinfinite, where it's reported that mobile puzzle game Grindstone, also by Capybara Games, just like Below, just received a free update that, among other things, adds a new, in quotes, special outfit, a gore slider, and more. That narrative brickbreaker game, Twin Breaker, A Sacred Symbols Adventure by Lilimo Games, is coming to PlayStation 4 and PS Vita on March 24th. This followed by an announcement that physical copies of the game will be distributed through East Asia Soft, yet these are limited to 1,000 copies per platform. So that means 1,000 PS4 and 1,000 PS Vita. I don't know like how many people are going to be super into this, but I am. I'm super excited for that. I'm a big Sacred Symbols fan, so I'm probably going to buy a physical copy of Twin Breaker just to have because I think it'll be cool. Even though I fucking hate Brick Breaker games.
I can't believe they're still making Vita games.
I feel like this specific. Okay, so I'm actually really interested in this in its entirety, because there was a news story where Sony and PlayStation were forcing, like they were no longer producing Vita cartridges, so they were forcing retailers like Limited Run and people who do physical copies of Vita games to get their orders through. So basically, to say how many cartridges they needed,
right?
Because they were going to stop. So I don't know if East Asia Soft just happened to have like an extra allotment of cartridges that they could use for Twin Breaker, but I do think it's very cool that it's getting a physical release on the PS Vita. But yeah, I feel like that was just kind of to be hard-headed because Colin's constantly talking about the PS Vita, so kind of not only does he have to put it on the PS Vita, but if he's going to do physical, it's got to be physical on there.
All right.
And lastly, that VR puzzle game Ghost Giant by Zoink AB is headed to the Oculus Quest on February 20th. Now over on IGN, where it's reported that action game Bloodroots by developer Paper Cult is headed to PS4, Switch, and PC via the Epic Game Store on February 28th. I don't know if this game is just not coming to Xbox One. It did not say so in the article, whether it wasn't or whether that one's delayed or anything. So that would be something I have to look into. But it looks like Bloodroots not coming to Xbox One, as Jonathan Dornbush wrote that news article.
And he is never wrong.
Yeah, I've heard the Dorn is never wrong. And that visual novel, Murder by Numbers by developer Mediatonic, is headed to the Nintendo Switch on March 5th and PC on March 6th. I don't know why.
You said March thick?
I meant to say March 6th, but it's so weird.
Damn, March looking thick right now.
It's down with the thickness. No, I don't know why they're separating the releases by one day.
I don't know.
That's so weird.
Got to keep that trickle effect.
Yeah, you got to stay in the news cycle, right?
Yeah,
you might have died down in that one day. You got to make sure people are still talking about you.
It's true. True big brain thoughts.
Dude, we're all about the thickness and big banes right now.
That's what I'm talking about. All right.
And surprisingly, this one is seriously, I'm surprised we had this one. Over on Game Informer, it's reported that roguelike action game Children of Morta by designer Dead Mage just released a new free update, which includes several new features such as a new hard mode, new enemies, and more. Just to clarify, not surprised that they got a free update, their first free update. I'm surprised that Game Informer is still putting out news. Let's be real. They put out like one news story every 2 weeks. It's kind of depressing.
Well, this is the one they chose. Didn't Children of Morta just have a free update like a couple weeks ago? Is this the same one? Or are they just like cranking out new content?
This might be the same one. I'm not 100% certain. Like I said, this is the new and improved or new and much degraded Game Informer. So they might be super late to the party.
they're still kicking.
And to round out the group over on GameSpot, it's reported that roguelike action game Dead Cells by developer Motion Twin is getting a physical fuck, dude. I'm gonna kill myself.
Ooh,
I hate
fuck, dude.
I hate
that's a hero I can get behind.
It's like Codpiece. Have you ever seen Codpiece?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's a superhero. He's like the thrust superhero who has like basically a belt of gadgets that's attached to his pelvis that he has like rockets. He basically has like a rocket penis and like a boxing glove penis. Like he's basically Green Arrow and Batman put together, if only they could only use their penis.
Wow.
To activate gadgets.
That seems very offensive. All right, then.
Yeah, by developer Motion Twin is getting a physical collector's edition dubbed the Prisoner's Edition, featuring several awesome items, including but not limited to a 22 centimeter tall resin statue of the prisoner, 3 enamel pins, a keychain, and much more. This collector's edition is currently available for pre-order through Signature Edition's website and will cost you $65.31. That is actually like an exchange rate of pounds, because it's like 85 pounds or some shit like that on their website, because they are a European company. I'm not sure if people in the United States could really purchase this, because I've heard that certain things are kind of like region locked and they refuse to ship to the United States.
Weird.
I'm not saying Signature Edition does that. I've just heard that kind of stuff about smaller like publishers like this. So I'll be interested to see if this moves anywhere, because I believe certain things that Signature Editions has actually like published in the like across the pond have then in the United States come to Fangamer. So I'll be interested to see if this one does as well, or if Signature Edition will be the only ones to hold this one. But this collector's edition looks super fucking cool. I really want it, but I do not want to pay shipping to the United States from Europe. So fuck that. And that follow-up to Mutant Year Zero Corruption 2029 by developer The Bearded Ladies was not only just announced, but is also releasing on the Epic Games Store on February 17th for $20. And lastly, that free-to-play 2D shooter Soldat is getting a sequel, and it's coming to Steam in early access sometime in Q1 of 2020. So, the biggest of average Josh boys, because I realized in the beginning I did not call you that. We've been blessed with so many amazing
I don't think we
games.
really introduced ourselves.
Yeah, sadly we didn't. We've been blessed with so many amazing indie games news stories that I think it's about time we get back to the creators. In our next segment, God Bless the Crowd, this is where the biggest of average Josh boys hops into all sorts of crowdfunding sites. Fuck, dude. Crowdfunding sites.
We are getting real sloppy on this episode. This is definitely 69.
I'm getting thrown off. I mean, 69s are generally pretty sloppy in my experience, so.
Nice.
This game you found is over on Kickstarter. It's called Rose of Starcross. It's a colorful and explosive RPG about a place with a heavy past for Nintendo Switch and Windows. The developers are currently looking for $6,500. They currently, at the time of this recording, have $5,879 with 211 backers and 22 days left to go. To get in on the ground floor, you could do $5 and not get the game, or you could be a normal person and give $15 to get a digital copy of the game.
I mean, yeah, it's probably better to have the game than not.
Yeah, and if you guys are on the fence about it, they do actually have a downloadable demo on this Steam page through itch, or not Steam page, on this Kickstarter, which will then link you to itch.io, where you can check out this demo. What do you think about Rose of Starcross, Big Josh Boy?
I think it looks really cool, actually. This is definitely something that fits right into my gameplay style. So it's very... So when it comes to turn-based combat, like for the general like RPGs that you would know of, like a Final Fantasy, like an old school Final Fantasy anyway, they were always like to me, something that I wasn't crazy about because they don't have like a very interactive element to it other than, you find which button you want to click, you press it, whatever. But this, along with other RPGs, like why I love Super Mario RPG, adds an element of like there's a turn-based system to it, but also you have to actually like block in certain ways to actually effectively block against the enemies because they're attacking from the left side, the right side, above you, whatever. That piece to it excites me because I love having that more interactive combat system. And the game in general just looks really bubbly and bright. The entire world looks very quirky and imaginative. I like the fact that it's a mix-up of that turn-based / interactive combat with kind of puzzle mechanics and platforming system. Almost like if you kind of mashed Zelda together with something of like a Final Fantasy, but also like a little bit of, I get like a lot of Undertale vibes from this as well.
Dude, me too. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so I personally think this, obviously things could fail. I haven't actually checked the demo, so I can't vouch for it too hard, but like this looks like it could be one of those, cult classics kind of a thing that like it has the potential to have a big following of fans and to just be a generally interesting game. I don't know enough. Like I said, I haven't played the demo, but just from a lot of the screenshots from the video of, gameplay, it looks really interesting.
Yeah, I think it looks really, really cool. The story is basically like 300 years before the events of the game. Basically, like this catastrophic evil kind of like starts to fuck with humanity in the world and starts to like birth demons, and then like a strong hero then fights it off and kind of dies and locks herself away, leaving like the only key to reopening the door of like where she's slumbering is like a sword, and you are this hero that is then supposed to kind of like put back together the world. But this is like 300 years later where it's like things might not be so awful now, or they just might be, depending on who you ask. But honestly, things have gotten along pretty well thanks to the leadership of some really impressive individuals. A notable feat is that demons, anims, which I'm assuming is like animals, I don't really know. And humans live very much in harmony. The door locked behind the rose, the sword, and Mount Starcross itself are also pretty fun tourist attractions now. So whether or not you even believe that stuff about the beast and the heavenly queen and blah, 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 you've got to admit that a lot of people seem happy enough. Now, who knows what would happen if some unknown idiot kid just came along and actually pulled the sword up. But I doubt we'll ever have to worry about that. School's out, summer just started, a perfect time to take a vacation, go have fun. So I'm assuming your character is the reason that all of this bad shit happens, and seemingly you unleash this like devil back into the land, which is really cool. I also really like the art of this. I love its pixel art. I love these bright, vibrant colors. I like a lot of the character designs, how it's kind of like, it gives me like Undertale and now like Halloween Town vibes, which is a little weird.
Yeah.
There's just a lot to like about this game. The only thing that is I have two things that are a little bit weird. One, did you know that the combat is based on mini games?
I mean, it kind of feels like that, yeah. So a lot of the combat looks a little bit different on how you interact, which makes sense. I guess it's based on the enemies, maybe?
No, I mean, it's literally based on mini games. So, like, right here it says defending. Enemy attacks can come from above, left, right, whatever. So attacking, minigame based attacks determine how much damage you do and or how many successful hits you do. The minigames are balanced differently or changed based on which enemies you are fighting or what locations you're fighting in. So it seems like to do any of these things, you actually have to like play a minigame to actually accomplish anything, but it changes.
So from what I saw on these, it feels very like a Mario RPG or like a Paper Mario style of certain attacks are like, click a button in some succession and basically like, here you go, press A, B, X, whatever it is, a combination of it, and it'll be random. And then as you go farther down, there's a couple others where it's like you have to avoid the like oncoming attacks, or you have to collect certain things. Like there's little like, that's kind of what I mean of it becomes an interactive game when you're trying to attack rather than just click this button, use this
rather
attack,
than just choosing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like there's something different. I didn't know that it was based on the type of enemy though. I didn't see that. I just assume it was like whichever attack you have, you're going to play that mini game, and the mini game would be different depending on each time you do it. But
yeah, I feel like if there's anything, there's like two things that I think that'll throw off people. One, the like mini game based combat, but if this is something that has happened before in like Super Mario RPG, then I think people will probably be like used to it, if anything nostalgic for it. But the other thing is, it seems like this game is trying to do too much. Like it's doing a lot.
Yeah, I can see that. But I think it shouldn't be too much of an issue. It depends on how extensive these mini games get, but they seem pretty simple. The actual puzzle side of like the world has a lot of different elements to it from, what I've seen in the couple of clips. I don't know how far they're going to go into that, because that could be a big factor of it. But I think this is still pretty doable. And I think like going a little bit back to the element of the mini game part might, turn some people off. Like, this is kind of why I mentioned that this is very Undertale-esque, because Undertale had the same thing where like every time you went into battles, you'd have these different dodge elements based on the character you're fighting. Of like, you have this little heart that's like your main little like icon, and you're avoiding attacks or going into a certain range area. So it's like it's very similar in that regard.
I'll have to play Undertale so I actually understand that. But yeah, I think this game looks really, really cool. I might actually back it for $15. I don't think that's like an excessive price to pay for this really cool looking game. Especially because I don't think this one's like excessively far away, but it is a solo dev. Yeah, December 2020 or 2022. So it is like 2 years away. Yeah. But still, this game looks really interesting. And I think like this developer deserves to make this game, because I also think that it has a lot of these elements that might make it kind of a cult classic. So I'm excited to see how people are receptive to this. I'm surprised it actually only has like that it hasn't met its goal yet, because one, that has a fucking good trailer. Like, this is a good trailer. Like, this is a get hyped trailer because of like the music cues in it, how he's constantly switching scenes based on the music, and let alone the fact that like this guy is a solo dev. He's making, like he says below, he makes the music, he does the animations, he's doing like the coding and the artwork. Peyton Burnham is doing basically everything in this game. And that is absolutely amazing. This is an extremely talented person, and I really hope this game succeeds, because I think it's very, very cool. Like I said, I think I'm going to back it, honestly, because it's so interesting. But I'm going to check out the demo first, just to see if I hate the combat.
Yeah, it's probably for the best.
Do you have any last thoughts you want to get off about Rose of Starcross before we hop in to our crazy questions?
No, I think we said everything that needs to be said about this game. Honestly, I would say if this, like, anything about this sounded appealing, definitely back this one, because this does look super cool.
I absolutely agree. All right, so let's hop into some random questions. We've got a bunch of random questions that we have had written in for our episode 69.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I think I might have missed one somewhere in there, but
yeah, for sure we did.
Because we started off the God Bless the Crowd thing and I fucked it up, and then you said, well, this is episode 69, so now I'm going to go back to the past and just go like, nice. So maybe in editing, I'll actually take that and I'll put it there. But I probably won't do that because I don't give a shit.
You definitely won't.
I forget to edit out the dumbest shit, so there's no way that I will actually willingly do that.
For sure not.
Chris Penwell writes in and asks, what attractive what am I fucking saying?
Well, I don't know. What is Chris saying?
I don't even know. He said most, and I said what? I don't know what that means.
You have this gift of just putting words where they don't belong.
Do you ever wonder if maybe I can see like a different dimension? I'm like seeing into a different dimension, and some fucking ghost creature with like penis hands is like fucking with me because he hates his life. He's like, yeah, if I have to have penis hands, you're gonna read these wrong fucking words at the worst time.
I mean, I think you're just dyslexic, and the next question has what in it, so you just read that because you were looking at it too quick. But yeah, that other alternative is definitely possible.
Nah, I can see through dimensions. Don't try to make sense of my stupidity. So
sure.
Chris Penwell writes in and asks, most attractive video game characters. So it could be multiple, which I enjoy.
Oh.
What are your most attractive video game characters?
I only thought of one. Definitely Lara Croft. Specifically the triangle boob version. You know?
Really? Specifically the triangle boobs.
That's the pinnacle of beauty, if you know what I mean.
You know what? Like, some people look down. Like, some people, like, when you were in middle school, you saw the girls that, like, stuff their shirt or whatever, and people were like, oh, come on, dude. Like, don't do that. That's ridiculous. But then you saw that, like, your wife's boobs were perfectly padded in a triangle, and
That's
you
true.
realized that she was the woman for you.
That's when I knew she was the one, and I had to have her. And it was just, it's all been, it's all been uphill from there. All been triangled. I don't even know where I'm going with this. Pyramid-shaped dreams.
For me, I mean, like all the women in Overwatch, let's be real, they're all super thick and hot. Like, I'm sorry, but they are. I mean,
Blizzard
I feel
knows
like
what they're doing.
Yeah, seriously. I feel like gamers in general just have a lot of like pent up sexual energy. So I feel like all basically like men and women in video games are they're just kind of sexy, dude.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest, let's chill a little bit. Well, I'm not saying like kids, but I'm talking about like the older people. Let's like chill a little bit. Let's stop being so thirsty. Like, let's fucking calm down and make some like a Joe Schmo, like a chubby little bitch like me. Stop, like, I don't know, making mercy. Just looking like a freaking snack over here, okay?
I mean, they made that big hamster boy.
You're telling me you don't want to get up in that? You don't want to get up in Hamilton, I think his name is?
I like how you took offense to... No, well, not even took offense. But you went that direction as opposed to taking offense because you were like, why can't you make a character like me? And then I said, oh, there's a big fat hamster.
I didn't even think about that, you dick. I'm like, make a Joe Schmo, and you're like, I mean, there's a fucking stupid-ass fat animal, so basically made you.
Basically the same thing. What's the difference,
Yeah, there's a gorilla with exceptionally high intelligence. He's probably got a huge penis, too, so...
I bet. I mean, if you...
let's be real. They're going to put out a comic where it turns out that Winston, huge dong. Like, massive. They're going to show him, like not like adolescent Winston chilling up in his space station, just like sending dick pics to everybody, but they don't want to show that because then he'll get canceled because that's fucked up. But he's got a big donger, dude. It's huge.
Yeah, that's the true takeaway from this episode.
Absolutely. I think we answered your question appropriately. They all sexy. Men, women. I'm not going to say kids because that's just fucked up. That's not going to happen. I'm not even going to joke about that. But seriously, though, like, calm down, people. Fucking,
it's true.
I don't know.
Shit's
Stop
weird.
watching so much porn or something. Just
Shit's
chill out.
Weird. All right, let's get to the next question.
Jonathan Moore, founder of Parallax Media, writes in and asks, "What's your favorite beer?" Basically, the only person who didn't write in a sexy question. I'm starting to think you're kind of a prude, John. Come on, dude.
You have a few too many of them, and it gets real sexy. You know what I'm saying?
That's yeah, maybe he was afraid that people would die of moistness from this episode. Yeah, they would literally become dehydrated because of how sexy this episode is.
It's true. I mean,
so he had to write in about beers. If anything, he's reminding you to stay hydrated because he knows that this is such a sexy episode.
It's true. To actually answer the question, so I went through. So I actually have one of the things that I like to do when I go out to different breweries or bars. Every time I have a different beer, I track it in an app that I have on my phone called Untapped. So I just ended up looking up a couple of my higher, like top tier rated beers because it's basically a 5-point-star or a five-star rating. And
a 5-point star.
Yeah, I mean that's how many points are on the star, right? So for me, looking over some of my highest ratings, I think my favorite has to be it's a stout called Double Dunk. And so it's an 11.9% beer, which means it's super, super strong. Like if you think of normal, like a Bud Light, that's like a 4%. So this thing is super alcoholic, but it doesn't taste that way. Instead, it tasted a lot like just Oreos, like straight up Oreo cookies.
Yeah, because if you're going to drink doo-doo water, it better be fucking, like, better get you done.
You're so dumb. You and this, God, you uncultured swine.
I'm afraid of eventually getting a job in the games industry because, like, GameSpot After Dark, they're all drinking beers, they're enjoying it. I mean, I guess Tamor, like, just dumps, like, Diet Coke in his beer cans to make it look like he's drinking beer, but, like, everyone drinks beer, and I'm going to be sitting there with a White Claw and be like, yeah, man. Boy.
Yeah, you're super, super hardcore.
The hardest.
Look, man, one day I'll actually meet you in person, and I'll take you to different breweries, and I'll find beer that you enjoy. There's good beer out there. It's just most people don't know where to look or what types they like.
All right. Now go on about your Oreo beers and such. Was that your favorite beer?
I think, yeah, I would say that's my favorite beer. And then so that's a stout, but then lately I've been getting really into sour beers. And I think my favorite sour would have to be, it's not one that I think a lot of people would like, but I really enjoy. It's called Green Zebra, and it tastes like watermelon, and it's so good. I think, so if you don't like beers, I think a sour is usually a good step for people to try to take because it's more like fruity, and could be sometimes more classified to like, more like those seltzery mixed drinks, but just not the seltzery part to it. But like, there's some really good sours out there. Yeah,
I'm a little bitch boy, and I like fruity drinks. So
yeah,
and I'm really not joking. Daiquiris are delicious. So what's up? Mojitos are disgusting because that's just leaf water.
I mean,
don't understand people who do that, but yeah, big fan of fruity drinks.
Are you like a drinker in general though? Because like you, if
no,
you also don't drink much, then it doesn't really matter. Like,
no, I don't really drink. I have gotten drunk before, and I've been told that I'm a lovey drunk, which I know that I am because I like get drunk and then just relentlessly tell people that I love them and like hug people cute. And shit like that.
I can't wait to meet you and get you drunk.
But, okay, so I don't get drunk because I don't necessarily trust myself in a way because I'm a gigantic asshole.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like I have like a certain, like a small modicum of a filter when I'm like just normal. But I feel like if I get drunk, but I get a little bit too drunk, I'll just be the biggest asshole on earth. So...
It's okay. As long as we're not recording, you'll be fine.
That's true. Yeah, nobody will ever know. It's not like we have cell phones.
No one does that. That's just rude.
Yeah, so I basically just don't want to hurt people's feelings, so I kind of stay away from it. Plus, I'm honestly scared too because I have a constant fear of being like locked away and like being immobilized in some way. So, yeah,
Man, you and these crazy fears.
Yeah, I'm scared of escape rooms. My wife keeps wanting to do.
I just did one the other day.
My fiance. Really? Okay, no, I'm terrified of them. I would never do one because I'm afraid that I'll get locked in there forever.
I mean, it depends because some of them are really good about it. The one that we went to was literally like, hey, if you really need to get out of here, just yank the door hard enough and it'll open. Like, basically being like, you're not trapped in here. Like,
did you technically win though? You're just like, I mean, we escaped.
No, we did win, and we did it in like a really fast time. The lady came back in and she was like, you definitely should have done one of the harder ones. And we were like, oh, we didn't know there was a difficulty.
Were you like, sorry, I'm such a smart
boy. Fucking smart. But yeah, something like that. No, it was fun though, and it depends though because I've heard like that was the only one I've been to, but I've heard that there are others that are like super creepy and can get a little bit like claustrophobic and overwhelming. So it just depends. You need to do like a little bit more research on it if you do have that fear.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. Instead, I'll read the next question, which is from Chase Hopkins. He says, best 69, Hulk or Wally? What's up?
I don't know what this means. It's like the best
he's saying, I'm
to
assuming which one would give you a better 69, Hulk or Wally?
I mean, I guess it depends on what I'm looking for. I really don't want to get fucking wrecked, so I'm going to go with Wally.
Yeah, me too. That's what I was thinking, is that the Hulk would just crush your ass. Like, he would fuck you up. But then Wally, he's a cute little robot
lover.
And everything. Yeah, as we've seen with him and I'm assuming her name is Eva. Because I don't know if you're supposed to say it that way. Maybe her name is just Eve, but he is very tender and loving.
It's
he
true.
Doesn't squish that cockroach. So
yeah. So
I feel like he'd be very sensual.
Right?
Okay,
the cockroach.
He would be
is
gentle
your penis.
with me.
He would not crush it.
He would try his best not to crush my penis. So yes, we both agree that Wally would be the right one. Now Hulk, he has his merits because of course he's a human. But I don't know. Maybe I want some cold steel pressed against my nutsack. Okay?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That sounds very right. Let's move on to our last question, which I haven't read all of this.
Oh, it just keeps going.
Sam is fantastic. Really, if there is a winner of the best question for an episode, it has to be these. So Samuel Fillion writes in and asks, what to do if someone farts during 69ing? Seriously, though. He has multiple questions.
Yeah, why don't we do it one at a time, though?
Oh, okay. So what do you do if somebody farts while 69ing? So if you don't know, 69ing is a sexual position where you go genitals to mouth, but you both do it at the same time. So if somebody farts while 69ing, I mean, I guess your nose is close to their butt, but you're not staring like deep into their butthole.
I mean, then you're not doing it right.
I guess. Yeah. Maybe I'm just not curved enough.
Yeah.
I don't have a big enough head to like nuzzle the beehole or anything like that. But I think you're pretty solid. Like if they fart, just go with it. Be like, all right.
Yeah, fucking lap that shit up, you know?
Unless it's terrible.
Yeah.
Unless it's like rancid, there's got some major stank ass, then that's just done, dude.
It's also
just
tough because like if you're the person on the bottom, like you can't do nothing. You just squirm and take
trapped. If anything, they're like you're going at it and then they like lean up and fart just directly into your face. Guaranteed pink eye. Not the partner for you.
That's
Don't do that.
Yeah, all right. Okay? So what to do if someone farts? Probably break up with them.
And he also asks, has anyone ever tried 96ing before? Is that when you just cuddle with your backs to each other or opposite ends of the bed and your butts touch?
There's nothing wrong with a little butt touching. See, this literally the first thing I thought of was like, yeah, this is just, when your friend sleeps over your house and you go like foot to toe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It's the old like adage, the Scrubs adage, where he's like, but like you don't lay like head to head because then you can't lock in.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that makes sense. So yeah, 96ing is just laying with your good bro or good gal in one bed but facing away from each other. So it's like if anything's touching, like yeah, you're going butt to butt and then head to foot.
Yeah.
Which might also suck because maybe they got stank feet and stank
true.
butt. So
That's okay.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you have to deal with that. These are the things. This is how friendship works, you know?
yeah, you never know. Maybe when we eventually meet in real life, we will 96. We'll touch butts.
All right. I don't know about that, but I mean, we'll see. I won't say no to the idea, but I just find it highly unlikely.
We're eventually going to go to a PAX or something
Oh,
for
yeah. So
Indie Incursion.
that makes sense.
And then we're going to share a bed and we're going to touch butts.
Touch butts. Nice.
Because it's not a possibility that we might get different rooms or, different beds. Nope, we're going to touch butts.
Money is tight, so buttholes will also be tight. I don't know where I'm going with that.
But he says, okay, but really seriously now, what video game characters would use 69? Nice.
Nice.
We've missed a couple, but
we've
just
missed a lot.
retroactively. Nice.
Very good.
What video game character would use 69?
I don't know. I mean,
and it can't be triangle boobs. Lara
yeah, I was
Croft.
gonna say. I mean, that was the most attractive one. I want those triangle boobs.
Her triangle boobs would cut your calves off. Those things got to be sharp as shit.
Nah, man, it's just to she sinks right into that area and gets locked into position.
She's like one of the Tetris tiles.
Yeah, exactly. We're making puzzly love.
So you would choose Lara Croft, the triangle boobs Lara Croft. That's the best 69.
I gotta go with my girl. I can't do her wrong.
I mean, shoot, I don't know what video game character would I 69. I tried to cut you off from the Lara Croft.
I know, but I was just too stuck on her.
Man, that's a good one. I feel like it would have to be somebody from the Mass Effect franchise because let's be honest, they can all get it. What's up with that though? Like, how does like Commander Shepard only find like female or male only find attractive aliens in this universe? There's not one Uggo. Like, what's up?
I mean, he's very, very specific about who he lets on board.
Yeah, he or she. Like, I mean, even Rex. Like, Rex can get it. He's got that big back bump, and he can keep you safe. Like, I don't know. It's just so weird. But yeah, definitely somebody from the Mass Effect franchise. If I'm being honest, I would like to say Tali Zora, but she could die. So
Okay.
that's not chill. Have you? Okay, so you played Mass Effect, right?
I've only played the first one.
Oh, but you know about the Quarians, though, right?
Yeah.
How they like live inside hermetic suits and they have like zero immune system and stuff. So you in the Mass Effect franchise, you can romance Tali, and she like risks her life to have sex with you.
Yeah, I would literally kill her right now.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'd want to put her in that position. So I'm gonna go for I don't know, man. I mean, I really like Legion. I feel like his Robo Dong would be a great 69. You know? Man.
The true struggle.
Yeah, there's just too many hot people in Mass Effect. Definitely not Jacob, because he's kind of a turd. He kind of sucks. Miranda's hot, but I feel like that's a little weird since she's modeled after an actress. Like, she can get it too, but that's just a little weird. Samara. Yep, it's just Samara. Let's be honest. It's Samara. She can get the 69 because I don't have to worry about killing her. If anything, she might kill me. And she's super hot. Like, that's the thickness right there. She's got it. Okay?
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah, what video game character would I 69? It would be Samara and or Tali, but I would be afraid of murdering her, so definitely not.
All right. Glad we got that covered.
That's it for this episode of Indie Incursion and Indie Games Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you guys would like to chat with us outside the show, make sure to follow us on Twitter. You can follow the show at IndiePod. Super easy to find. It's INDIEPOD. Super easy. You can follow me at Hyde Legion. My name is Vaughn, of course. That's HYDELEGION. And you can follow Josh at _George90. That one's super easy, so I'm not even gonna do that. Plus, I'd probably mess it up anyway, so not gonna fuck with it. Make sure to keep an eye out for our question thread that we post every Monday. I make sure I give reminders on Tuesdays and Wednesdays to send in questions so you can ask about front butts and such, about back boobs, about 69s and nice. That kind of stuff.
Well, they can't really ask about that anymore. Now it's going to be episode 70 and plus.
Episode 70, they write in a 69 question. We're like, get the fuck out of here.
You know what fucking episode this is?
You know what? They'll have to wait for innuendo questions and such until 420, which is going to be weird, but still.
Let's get weird.
Are there any other possible? I don't know. Maybe 111. That's 3 penises. So maybe.
All right, that was a stretch, but yeah, I guess.
You could say 3 people, 3 penises.
3 people? Oh, menage a trois.
Yeah, maybe that's the threesome episode. That's when we finally get a constant third person is going to be on our 111th episode. And then on our 112th episode, it turns out we scared them away with the 111th.
That sounds fitting.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm actually kind of terrified because I would really like to get a co-host that's a girl because I feel like they would offer different viewpoints. But, we did just talk about touching butts for a while.
That's okay.
We get pretty weird.
Girls can touch butts too.
Yeah, I just don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. I feel like I can make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's not. It's definitely different.
Yeah,
I get that.
Yeah. I don't want to be a creeper.
Well, we would just if we find the person that's right for it, they would know what they're getting into.
That's true. Just proof that I don't want to be creepy so bad. I wrote something that later on, a day later on Twitter, I was like, oh, fuck. No, that could be so weird because I said fuck me in it. And I was like, wait, you could read that in a different way. And that's not what I mean at all. Yeah. I just meant I should fuck off, not fuck me, I was honestly scared that this person might take it that way. I was like, not what I meant. Now don't read into that. That's not what I meant. So,
yeah. Context is everything. And just text-based communication is horrible.
Yeah, not easy to get context. But, of course, that is the end of this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
69. Nice.